We're going to be using a Vuex store for our print bay client, as it's a powerful way to manage application state across our different views. But remember that we're following enterprise principles for developing this app, so we want to ensure that the code is as scalable and maintainable as possible. For this reason, we're going to be using Vuex ORM, which is a plugin for Vuex that allows us to think of our application state as models rather than as formless data. Another advantage of Vuex ORM is it allows us to not worry so much about the inner workings or the boilerplate of Vuex when working with our app state. Instead, we can use the simple interface of our Vuex ORM models. For example, in pure Vuex, you might have a statement in your component code like this. You might go, this store state commit update user, or something like that. Now, using a Vuex ORM model abstraction, we'll be able to use much simpler syntax, something like this. And that's designed to do essentially the same thing. So hopefully I've intrigued you about Vuex ORM now. So let's go ahead and install it by typing npm I at Vuex ORM core, and we'll save it as a development dependency. Similar to Mongoose, Vuex ORM abstracts data into models. Now obviously we'll use the same entities in our client app as we did in our backend app, that is, items and users. So let's now create a directory for our models by going make dir client store models. We'll then create our first item model file by going touch client store models item.js. With the item model file now open, let's define the schema for this model. Now, one interesting thing about Vuex ORM models is that they're defined with classes, unlike Vue and most other Vue plugins, which are normally defined with objects. So let's first import the model class from the Vuex ORM core library by going import model from Vuex ORM core. After that, we can now extend the model class and create our new class. So we'll go export default class item extends model. Now the first thing we're going to do in our schema is create a static property entity. Now this property is used to name the model, and it should be the plural of the entity's name, which in our case is going to be items with an S. You'll see why this is important later on. Next, let's define the fields of our model by creating a static method, and it will be fields. Now this method is going to return an object containing the field definitions. So rather than typing them all out individually, I'm just going to go ahead and paste them in like that. And if you've built the backend API, these field names will be all familiar to you as they reflect the properties of our backend item model. Now Vuex ORM allows you to specify the type of field. So we've got strings here for ID, title, and artist, and image. And we've got a number for year and price. And finally, the value that you can pass in here is simply the default value for that field. The way that Vuex ORM works under the hood is by turning this model schema into a Vuex module with a series of mutations and getters. It then installs all that into the Vuex store. As you'll see in a moment, each Vuex ORM model provides all the standard CRUD operations like create, update, and so on. Now these methods are aliases of more complex Vuex mutations and getters that have been encapsulated by the model. My point is that in addition to defining the schema for the model, we can also define our own pure Vuex methods for this model with a module file. And the reason we may want to do this is to extend the features of the model, very similar to how we extended the features of our Mongoose model. So let's go ahead and create a new directory now. And this one will be client store modules. And we can create our item module file by going touch client store modules, and this one will be item.js again. So in our item module file, we don't actually have any custom methods for this module just yet. So we're simply going to export an empty object from this file, and we'll come back and add stuff to this later. Over in the store file, we have the default store code for the Vue CLI 3 installation here. So let's actually begin by clearing all that out, and we're going to go ahead and import Vuex ORM, our item model and module, by going import Vuex ORM from @Vuex ORM core. Go import item from the store models item, and import the lowercase I module from store modules item, like that. In order to use our model and install it in the underlying Vuex store, we have to create an instance of the Vuex ORM database. So let's do that by going const database equals new Vuex ORM and database with a capital D. We can then register our model in the database by calling the register method of the database and passing in the model file. So we'll go database register, and we pass in the model as the first argument and the module as the second argument. Finally, we install the database into Vuex ORM by going Vuex ORM install database. So with that done, our item model is now registered and ready to use in our components. So finally, remember that Vuex ORM is a Vuex plugin, and as such we need to install it into Vuex. So let's create a variable Vuex ORM plugin, and we'll assign that to the install database that's called there. What we can then do is go export default to export our store config, and we're going to create a plugins property, and we'll assign an array, and we'll pass in the Vuex ORM plugin like that. So that's all we need to do for our Vuex ORM installation for now. So let's try and serve our app by loading the dev server. And you'll recall from module 1 that we can run both our front and back end dev servers with this one command, npm run serve. Once the dev server is running, come over to the browser and open the site. And I've also opened Vue DevTools here, and let's take a look in the Vuex tab to inspect our store. Now that Vuex ORM is installed, you'll see in the state that we have this property entities here. Now that's where the state of our Vuex ORM models get stored. And inside that, you'll see this items model has been included. And if we open that, you can see we have this data property in here. And that's currently empty because we haven't created any instances of our items model just yet. Now down in the getters section, we can see some more interesting stuff. So all these getters here are the model methods that we can use. For example, you see there's a getter entities item find, and obviously we use that to query our items. So we're going to get much more familiar with all of those in the coming videos.